18 for the Tigers. Here's your ball game. Nick Marshall stands in, steps up, he's going to throw downfield, just a home run ball, and it is tipped off. And Lewis got it on the deflection. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Touchdown Auburn. Touchdown Auburn. A miracle in Jordan Hare. Byron waits for the snap into place. There it is. The kick is up. The kick is good. Auburn wins. The Auburn Tigers are on top of the college football world. 56-yarder. It's got, no, does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game.
You are listening to the Jboy Show, your number one source for Auburn and the SEC.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on another edition of the Jboy Show, the Tuesday edition. Very excited to welcome Cole Cubelic, an ESPN college football analyst. You can also find him on the SEC Network. He's also the co-host of the three-man front on WJOX in Birmingham 94.5. And like I said, very excited to have him on the show. He also played at Auburn, played center from 1996 to 2001. So, again, he's a guy that's very knowledgeable. We're going to talk about Auburn in 2020 and really kind of see, a little bit of the rest of the SEC as well and see what he thinks about it. So, again, thank you for joining us, and let's get it. All right. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you again for joining us on this Tuesday edition. As we said in the intro, joined by a guy today, a guy that's unbelievably knowledgeable about college football in the SEC, former Auburn Tiger, current ESPN, SEC Network analyst, and co-host of the three-man front on WJOX 94.5 in Birmingham, Mr. Cole Cubelic. Cole, thanks for joining us today, bro.
Hey, doing well. Appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, no problem, man. Well, let's get right into it. Obviously, looking more and more like we're going to be playing in 2020, thank goodness. And I want to start in the SEC, and I know it's really early. We didn't have a spring practice. Do you see maybe the NCAA granting maybe some extended fall camp or anything like that to kind of make up for that lack of spring practice?
Yeah, I think this latest outline or calendar schedule that has been discussed, a couple people have reported it. I think Ross Dellinger had it first. Heather Dennis was talking about it. Brandon Marcello, with basically 2 weeks of, I think they're calling it fall camp before practice actually begins. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be able to go out, have walkthroughs. You're going to be able to use a football. The coaches will be able to be with the players. I think that's going to be part of it. That'll help you with the install. That'll help a little bit of the mental acclimation period, organization. That's going to help a lot of that. And then I think you're going to have an extra week of practice in pads. And the 4 weeks of practice are going to have to take place before you play an actual game.
Yeah.
So I think not only are they going to allow it, they're going to almost mandate it, that you have to have a certain amount of practice before you actually go out and play. So that physical acclimation process is one that's tough and one that has to happen.
Yeah.
If guys are going to truly be ready to play a season.
No, that's a great point. I mean, it really comes down to safety. I mean, it's training the body to get back ready for, what's about to happen to it. And speaking of the season and kind of getting into the football part of it, I actually want to kind of start in the SEC East, Cole, because I was looking at it. I was looking at the schedules and kind of looking at the teams, and to me, that's a way bigger question mark than the West is who's going to come out of the East. Do you have an inkling of whether it's Florida, Georgia, a surprise in there? Is there somebody you like?
I would lean Florida today.
Yeah, I agree.
I like Kyle Trask. I like his game. I like the continuity that he and Dan Mullen have. You hear Dan Mullen talk about him and just being a guy that understands the offense. He does what he's asked inside the offense. I think there's a lot of value with that. I think, too, you look at the skill that I think some people think is gone from that team, but I think people don't really focus enough on the skill that's returning to that team. Some of the options they're going to have in the backfield, if you're looking at putting Emory Jones at quarterback, the things that he's going to be able to do, I think he can be a guy that really helps that team. Kadarius Toney can line up at quarterback or in the slot or tailback, and he can be a guy that takes high percentage, quick stuff and turns them into explosive plays. Trayvon Grimes, big physical receiver, that's going to be back from them. Malik Davis and Damian Pierce have both played a lot of tailback, so that's not going to really take a big step backwards. The offensive line's got good experience.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that played, they hadn't played great ball, but a lot of them have played and played together, and I think there's some value there. Kyle Pitts, the best tight end in the league as well, so he makes them very dangerous. I think, too, defensively, my breakout player in the SEC this year is going to come off of that defense. I think that Mohamed Diabate is going to be a guy that we're all talking about when the season gets here.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be an elite edge rusher for that Florida defense. And I don't think they take a huge step back on that side of the football, even though they did lose some talent.
I agree. And again, kind of talking about Georgia, too, that there's a lot of unknowns at Georgia. And there's a team, I think, if you look at the schedule, and they returned 4 or 5 offensive linemen. They did lose some D linemen, but they have some returning, including the guy that led the defense in tackles for loss. And that's South Carolina. And I look at the schedule, especially early. Do you think, and this is a year Muschamp has to win, in my opinion, as much as you know about South Carolina right now, do you see them maybe being able to win 8 games?
That schedule is just filthy. I think 8 games is very possible.
Mm-hmm.
I like their offensive line. I've got them as the second best offensive line returning in the league.
Thank you.
But I think Charlotte is a more dangerous game than people imagine. Obviously, traveling to Norman to play Oklahoma is going to be tough. I think that's a good place for Tennessee to get them because they should be healthy. You got Florida on the schedule, Bama on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky's going to be a really good football team. Georgia's on the schedule. Troy's not going to be a pushover. It's a brutal schedule. I mean, that doesn't include at Arkansas, at South Carolina, Missouri at home. So I think they can get to 8. I think 8's probably the ceiling for this football team. But I do think it's possible. They just got to find a quarterback that doesn't throw the ball to the other team. I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, and again, I think Helinski may be a guy that can do that for him. And to be honest with you, I think he'd have given Jake Bentley a run for his money, even if he would have came back. But really kind of shifting over to the SEC West. Obviously, your typical players are going to be there. Alabama's always returning talent. LSU lost a lot, but they're going to be talented. And then you have Auburn sitting right there. How do you kind of see, obviously without giving away too much, how do you kind of see the SEC West as it stands today?
I think it's still strong.
Yeah.
I think Alabama is clearly the class of the division.
Mm-hmm.
I have them a fairly big step ahead of all the other teams. But, I think people are just counting LSU out. I think that's a mistake because I think they have, after Trevor Lawrence, maybe the best offensive player in college football, and Jamar Chase coming back. You got Derek Stingley coming back, who may end up being the best defensive player in all of college football this year. A guy that not a lot of people talk about. I think when you look on that side of the football, the middle of that LSU defense with Glenn Logan and Tyler Shelvin and Apuika is going to be really, really good. I think Jacoby Stevens is going to be a first-round draft pick at safety, kind of a hybrid linebacker guy. A lot of the linebackers like Damone Clark and Marcel Brooks played a lot of football. So other than the scheme being a little bit different, I don't think the defense is going to have a huge drop-off. They need an edge presence, an edge rusher. And I'm not sure exactly who that's going to be, but they still have weapons on offense. A lot of the offensive linemen have played, not a ton together. I think Ed Ingram's a good player. Austin Deckula started every game last year. Chasen Hines has been a guy that has started at guard in the past. He'll bump down to center. So I don't think LSU is just going to all of a sudden turn into a 6 or 7 win football team. Yeah. I think Auburn's got a lot of questions, but they have some ability and some guys that could help him put together a good season. And I think A&M is probably your surprise team in the SEC. That schedule should allow them a really good opportunity to have 9-10 wins when they head into Alabama and have to close the season with Bama and LSU.
Wow. So you're predicting Texas A&M to probably have that banner year they've been waiting on for a while, huh?
Yeah, I think they can extend. I don't know if they'll view it as a banner year if they say drop the last 2 to Alabama and LSU, but
True.
I think this is the year that Jimbo can get them to double-digit wins.
Yeah, and I think that's something that he can do there. And I've said this before, probably once every 3 to 4 years, maybe 2 times in 4 to 5 years. Once those freshmen become juniors. But kind of narrowing our focus on Auburn a little bit, Cole. Obviously, most of our audience, is connected in Auburn. Obviously, the offensive line, and you being a guy that played it, that knows it better than anybody, is a huge question mark right now. And maybe not for lack of talent, but just lack of experience. Is there anything that you see in the personnel right now that gives you a lot of hope, even though it isn't experienced?
Well, yeah, with the personnel, I think Austin Trox was a guy that you believe can be a good tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him in practice. I've seen him in a spring game. He's got the perfect build, perfect frame for it. He's just been beat up, and you hope he can overcome those injuries and be able to have a productive finish to his career. Nick Brahms played a lot of football, done some good things. He's physical. He plays with some nasty. He's a guy that I think you get excited about. Broderius Ham, you get excited about the physicality there. Somebody who's not afraid to go out and push people around. I think that the depth is the most concerning part of it, really.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think that the starting five, whoever ends up being the starting five or wherever they end up being, have the ability or can go out and play or be successful. It's just that I don't know who the next 3 or 4 are going to be. And usually in this league, you better have 2 offensive linemen off the bench that can come in and help out. So you're
exactly
going to look
right.
at LSU last year.
Yeah.
LSU had Sadiq Charles suspended for a little while. They had a couple other guys banged up at times.
Yeah.
They had to move a few pieces around. So they really played with 7 most of the year, and it helped them get through the season. So you're going to have an extra body or 2. And that's my biggest concern with Auburn is once the first 5 is solidified, the order of the first 5 is set, who's going to be the next guy or 2 that can step up and give them, whether it's a series, a game, 2 games, 3 games in the middle of a season, to be able to survive.
Yeah, and even coming in on those jumbo sets down in the goal line where, Auburn has struggled kind of as late when they needed, 4th and goal from the 2. But really, I also want to ask you, Cole, kind of in that same vein, and it's more of a kind of a philosophical deal with Chad Morris coming to Auburn. You've had Chip Lindsey, you've had guys like that, and I know Gus and Chad are very close. I know they're good friends. Do you think that this may actually end up being the perfect marriage that everybody thought Chip Lindsey was going to be?
It has a chance to be, and I think the reason it has a chance to be is just because that trust factor is there.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about a guy that realistically in Chad Morris could come in and tell Gus Malzahn no.
Yeah.
Or tell Gus Malzahn it needs to be done this way. We're not doing it that way. And Gus would listen to him. So I feel like they're more on an even playing field than maybe Gus and Rhett were. I mean, listen, Rhett was always going to be Gus's quarterback.
Yep.
And that's just that wasn't going to change. It's kind of, whether it's Jimbo and Damian or whoever it is, it's just, that's always the way that relationship is probably going to be viewed from one side and the other. I think this has a chance to be viewed in a different light. Therefore, give Chad Morris the freedom, the capabilities to be able to design different things, add different things, subtract different things that could help make that offense more successful. Not saying that I think it definitely happens, but I do think it has a better chance of taking place.
I think that's a great way to put it. And again, that's going to be something that, honestly, in my opinion, we won't know until North Carolina when the chips are actually on the table and the fires are really burning. But just kind of scoping out a little bit, I wanted your opinion. Looking at the SEC as a whole, you have Alabama, you have a ton of talent. Is there a team that just made a new hire? You have Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. You have Mike Leach at Mississippi State. You have Sam Pittman at Arkansas. Is there a hire this offseason? Maybe it's a coordinator. Maybe it's Mike Bobo, at South Carolina. Is there a hire that really kind of jumped out to you like this one's going to fit? This is a good one.
I think one at 6. I mean, listen, I think Eli Drinkwitz has a chance to be great. If you haven't listened to him or talked to him, I think his energy, his personality is real. I love Sam Pittman. It's yet to be determined what kind of a head coach he'll be because we haven't seen it. But I think that he has a chance to get Arkansas heading in the right direction. I think Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach they're both good hires. But my problem is I don't think either one of them are necessary.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shy away from this. I'm not going to back off this because I said it when it happened.
Yeah, please expand.
I think when you got Joe Moorhead, who had to divvy up 100-some games of suspensions last year and then had a quarterback injury he had to deal with, I don't know what your expectations really were at that point. And, I mean, you had 2 great coordinators with a legacy player as a head coach with a ton of young offensive talent that was ready to take a big leap this year. And you go out and make a coaching change. Lane might end up being great, but I think Ole Miss took something that was working and was going to continue to improve and just threw it out with the trash. That was a little disappointing to me and disheartening to me because, I mean, you're talking about a coach that got back to 85 scholarships last August.
A lot of people don't remember that, Cole. A lot of people don't remember that at all. It's like it never happened. And that's, as well as I do as a coach, I mean, that's like, for lack of a better term, getting kicked where it don't feel great.
Yeah, and it's so now you got numbers that you can practice with, that you can rep, that you can have compete. I think they had 7 freshman offensive linemen come in last year, so they got their numbers back there. Nick Broker played a lot for them up front.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be a good offensive lineman. I think that John Rice Plumbing was a perfect fit for that scheme. They had solid talent in the backfield, solid talent on the outside. The defense was so much more fundamentally sound last year than it was under Coach McGriff a few years before. So I think things were really heading in the right direction. But Lane's a good hire. The one that sticks out to me, I'm going to say Matt Luke.
I like it.
The reason I say it is, number one, I always appreciate when head coaches are unafraid of bringing in other former head coaches, because a lot of head coaches would never do it.
Yeah, afraid of getting snaked.
They feel like, and you just saw Matt Luke do it. I mean, he had 2 good former head coaches as his coordinators.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys are scared of that because they think that they're going to try to take their job, or administration is going to try to hand them their job, and that they're going to come in and think that they know more. But I just think it adds a lot to your program. That's a sounding board that you can go to and talk about the mistakes that they made, or the things that worked for them that they can help improve your program with. And then if you're going to lose a guy like Sam Pittman, you needed a big hire there. Yeah. And you got someone who played the position in this league, coached the position in this league, and has been a head coach. So, and he's going to bring some real knowledge of different style spread offenses. I mean, he's now been with Rich Rod. He was with Hugh Freeze. He was with Cutcliffe. So he understands multiple offenses and how to run them, how to manage them. So I think, you're bringing in a new OC and Coach Monken, and now having Matt Luke there as well, I think turns out to be a really good hire for Kirby Smart, because you had to replace a legend. Yeah. And you did it with a guy that brings a lot of positives to your program.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You could tell during the bowl game with Matt Luke when they were playing Georgia, he was fired up. The guys were responding. And man, as well as I do, most offensive line guys are yellers anyway, and you need that. And it's something that, is going to do nothing but pay dividends for Georgia, especially with, the lack of what they have coming back. But last question before I let you go, Cole. And again, it's been great having you on, man. I know you're a guy that knows football way outside of the SEC. So could you give me a team maybe outside of the SEC that you're looking at to kind of make a move this year?
I like North Carolina. Okay. I think they're a team that could be dangerous, that could be scary. And I like Louisville a lot. Okay. I don't think either one of those teams has a good enough defense to truly extend to say win their conference. And I mean, obviously, win the division is going to be tough, but I think both of those teams have enough offensive firepower to where they could be very different than a lot of people believe that they're going to be. I think when you look at Mikael Cunningham and you look at the offensive line under Dwayne Ledford and that system that Scott Satterfield runs at Louisville, they are extremely difficult to defend. And then Sam Howell has got weapons everywhere. I mean, he's got big time wide receivers. Yeah. He's got big time tailbacks, multiple tailbacks. So I think those are 2 teams right now that I think really have a chance to extend. I mentioned A&M a little bit earlier. Could North Carolina win their division? Yes. I don't think Louisville can, but I think they could be a much better football team than a lot of people believe.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's kind of crazy. If you look at the 2 head coaches you've brought up, Eli Drinkowitz and now Scott Satterfield, both were Appalachian State guys. So that program's had a lot of success putting out head coaches in the Sun Belt. But, man, you brought up North Carolina. So, I mean, obviously you think that North Carolina-Auburn game is going to be a war, huh?
I would lean Auburn right now just based on physicality. Yeah, I agree. But I'll say this: if North Carolina can turn it into a shootout, I think that's advantage North Carolina. Yeah. And if that's a game that crawls above 70, then I think North Carolina wins it.
Wow. And again, I can totally see that happening. But again, man, Cole, I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's great stuff. Again, you can find him. He's co-host of the 3-Man Front on 94.5 WJOX in Birmingham. You can find him on ESPN. He's on the SEC Network. Cole, on Twitter. Cole, you want to drop your Twitter handle? I want to make sure I don't miss anything, brother.
Yeah, it's at Cole Cubelic, ColeCubelic.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you joining us, Cole. We'd love to have you back on the closer we get to the season, and stay safe out there, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I look forward to it.
All right, Cole. Appreciate it. And thank you guys for joining us on this Tuesday edition of the Jboy Show. And that was Cole Cubelic, obviously from ESPN, SEC Network, and the co-host of the 3-Man Front, like I told you, in Birmingham. Again, a guy that's very knowledgeable. Thought he made some great points. Really give you guys something to chew on as we progress into the season. And again, I do also want to let you guys know, if you're looking for any branding, PR, marketing, anything like that, the Investor Brand Network, we signed with them. They're unreal. You can find them at theinvestorbrandnetwork.com, or you can message me and I can tell you where to find them. But again, they're unreal, and y'all need to hit them up. And also, as always, shout out Faison for the intro. Always got to give Faison love. We have a new generic one coming out soon, so make sure you stay tuned. And again, you can find us on Twitter at the Jboy Show. We need more Instagram followers. It's the Jboy Show, DAJBOYSHOW. Can find us on Facebook like the Jboy Show page. And that's all we got. Jboy is going gone.